Welcome to fresh new updates, and it's a bull market again, or that's what we can see on social media. Today we're going to discuss the price action of Bitcoin. As you can see on the chart, I'm currently working on my setup as I've arrived in Cape Town. So from tomorrow on, most likely we got the setup ready, and probably we could be going live then as well. Before we continue, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I saw that the engagement and the views have been going up, which is massive, so thank you for that. And if you're not subscribed yet, please make sure to do that. Right now we are into a territory where there's a ton of volatility to be traded on the markets, so that's a great sign. Now when we're looking at the markets, we have some theories that people are assuming that we're going to have an acceleration upwards at this point, especially after such a run, in which we're going to continue running towards 25k and don't really have any correction taking place. You should realize though that the markets have been into a territory of macroeconomics that have not been great and that have not been adjusted at all, as the unemployment is still looking great. So most likely, and right now the VIX is at the low as well, most likely there is some sort of correction taking place, but that's all depending on an asset that we all know, which is the dollar currency index, which currently has been trending down since October 2022. We claimed that Bitcoin had some pace to regain because it has been going down more than expected, given that the markets have been having some issues with FTX, with Luna, Gemini as well, and therefore the markets have been crashing down more than what the indices have been doing. However, what we can see when it comes to the dollar is that we are approaching an important level of support here, which is also an area of resistance in which the lower time frame levels are currently at a stage where we can get a potential bounce into account at this point. So right now we are into this area here, which might be giving some sort of short-term bounce taking place. Why is that? Well, we still have the FOMC coming up within a few weeks from now. We also had this correction taking place based on CPI, but if the unemployment and PPI are not coming in as expected, we could be seeing a bounce taking place here. We also should realize that the markets on other commodities, etc., have been rallying quite fast, and therefore profit taking isn't the worst thing to do, as we are still facing a recession. So we are not out of the woods yet, but when it comes to crypto, we are looking quite fine. And tomorrow I'm going to be diving a bit into this topic, as earlier on Saturday I've also been making the outlook for 2023. Now when we're looking at the dollar currency index, I stated that we are approaching a weekly level here, which is important to watch if you are into positions, because if there is a short-term bounce taking place, and now I'm looking at the daily, today is still a day that we are not having the markets being open. But if you are looking at lower time frames, you can see that there are some levels that we can grant ourselves a bounce from. But if we're looking at the higher time frames, we can conclude that we've got a bullish divergence on the DXY at this point, which at least can give some sort of short upwards momentum, which we had here as well, in which we retest a few levels before we can continue the correction if it is going to be taking place. In this period in May 2022, we also saw the bullish divergence being formed, after which at least a short-term relief rally and some upwards momentum on the DXY took place, which potentially is something you should be taking into account right now as well, as we have been hitting that weekly level and have been bouncing upwards a little. The question is whether this is going to be confirmed, and what it has to do to confirm is that we're granting ourselves and higher low here, and preferably you want to see it hold above the area of 102 points. Now let's go through all the markets at this point. If we're looking at the futures in the US, futures have been correcting a bit. Now we are still continuing the grind. We still have some open pace to the upside, as there is a gap in the market still, so we still have approximately 150 points to go to close the gap when it comes to the Nasdaq. The VIX is currently at its low, which usually means that we're going to have some sort of reversal taking place on the markets. If you go back in history, April 2022, August 2022, and this low in December, April 2022, we all recall correctly, right? Here we had the high in April, then we started to fall down. Here we had the high in August, then we started to fall down. Here we had the high in December, and then we started to fall down, which is all a period where the VIX has bottomed out. So here we can see that from April the 4th, we had this running upwards number here, and in August we also had the same taking place. So yes, it's looking good for Bitcoin and crypto at this point, but this is something to take into account, especially these falls have been relatively severe, so this can impact the markets as a whole. So the DXY, we are looking at it, we need to get the higher low going if it wants to continue making some upwards runs, and then we are looking at 103 to 60.66 for the first resistance, as then we are taking liquidity here. Where we have been taking liquidity, we bounced back up, some consolidation, and then continuation. Now, when we're looking at gold, gold has been accelerating quite fast as well. Most likely getting into a resistance area here too. As we can see with this run, we're getting into a weekly level. Most likely some consolidation is going to take place there too, but massive rally taking place there. European stock markets also currently into a rush. Have been taking the highs. What you want to see with the Dutch stock markets is you clearly are not going to fall beneath this level again, which is 732 points. If we do, it's going to be a fake out. The same goes for the DAX. You don't want to see it fall beneath the level that we have here, which is the area at 14,600 points. If we drop beneath and start falling lower, then we are going to look at a very deep correction taking place there. Now, when we're looking at Bitcoin, I first want to look at the higher time frame solution here. The weekly is looking great. Massive run, regained all the losses that we had when it comes to FTX. And now we are looking at a case where we can either take out all these highs, or we're going to have some more corrections taking place and looking at 18K. And 18K is going to be the area where you ultimately want to get into your long positions. Something to take into account is we broke through the 200-day MA, which is a strong signal for continuation, but we couldn't break towards the 200 EMA, which we have been wicking in for 2 times in a row right now, and now we are looking at a case where we potentially are going to correct if we can't break through it. Then we also have a case of the CME futures, which currently is looking at a doji and looking at a gap towards 19.8 to 19.5 to be closed. We also had a gap here, which is currently getting closed, but we're still looking at a case where we're going to close that. Might take some time before we're going to do it. We might run towards 22 to 23K before we're actually going to have the correction. So overall, if we're getting into 18K, I think that's the area where you want to get into long positions. If we get into the 23K range to 25, as we have some other gaps here too, I don't believe that we're going to get there if the DXY is going to bounce, for instance. Then we are going to get the period of some really nice relief rallies taking place. And as you know, I'm still looking at a case where Bitcoin is going to 35 to 40K for this year. Now, I'd like to look at the lower time frames in the final few minutes of this update, in which we can conclude that we had a wick and we have got a bearish divergence here. We've got a rally going towards the high, low volume in which we wicked towards 21.5, couldn't break through it, and then we fell back into the range here. And now the question becomes whether we're going to sustain this range and get ourselves back into the high again for a triple top, or whether we're going to take out all the liquidity beneath the lows, and then you're going to look at 19.2 to 19.5 as support. In that way, we're probably waiting until the Nasdaq is going to kick in or the US is going to open up. In this case, the scenario still stands, and we most likely are going to have some sort of correction, but the question ultimately is whether Bitcoin can break 21K. If it can, then we're going to have a confirmation that this fake out is just to grab liquidity and that we're continuing the rally, which is comparable to the rally that we have seen in 2019. If we can't break 21K, I think we're going to take out all the liquidity. 19.9 is the level to watch because that is the CME futures level, but I think we wick a bit further towards 19.4, as right now the amount of long positions is substantially high, which means that the shorts have all been taken out. Maybe there are still some shorts above the November high of 21.6k. If those are also taken out, if we wick here and we fall back down, that's going to result into all the longs getting taken out, especially the high leverage ones. And then usually we have a very fast correction in which we wick and then just consolidate and most likely continue the upward trend, or at least go sideways for a little bit. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I think you should be looking at the DXY at this point. That's going to give you the trigger of whether or not Bitcoin is going to correct and whether or not gold and the indices are going to correct. And you have to look at 21k. If we are going to break through 21k, probably the 21.6k liquidity is going to be taken, and then you need to be aware of the fact that you could be shorting it if it falls back into the range again. If we do lose these levels, then you're going to look at 19.3 to 19.7 to buy the dip. I hope you have enjoyed this update. I'll be back tomorrow with fresh new content. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Ciao, ciao.